Hey everybody, welcome to this video. This is Shane Smolian from Wolf Trader Futures, and we're going to be verifying our gold lunar cycles from 2010 all the way out here into 2025. So we're going to go through the same methodologies. We looked at the lunar cycle through zodiac signs, and we looked at the lunar cycle as an aspect with the sun. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look back here. This is going to be 15 years of data that we're going to see here. And this is 15 years, and we're just going to do a simple back test. Now, most people stop here. They assume, well, the back test tells you everything you need to know, and let's just go from here. That's not the case, people. I'm just telling you right now. Sometimes you can have a really good back test, and it can fail miserably when you try to make it go forward into the future. So we're going to do a back test, and we're going to do it on the gold lunar, and we had the two here. We looked at the zodiac signs, and we looked at the sun moon. Okay, so we're going to look at both of those. And so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to run our composite test just like we did before. So you can see here, this is the composite test, and we're going to look at the we're going to look at the moon first, which is just the zodiac sign. Remember, we looked at this graph together. And then we're going to look at the moon, sun. And I purposely gave you two graphs on purpose when we started that series, because it's like, great, we have these two graphs, they look good. Which one do I use? Or do I use both? Or do I use neither? And so we're going to try to answer that question today by looking at this. So I have both of these over here in the composite. We're going to look at first the cycles, just the moon by zodiac sign. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the period going back to 2010. So we're going to have all this period since 2010, and I'm going to see how did it do in terms of percentage. So this does 209.43%. So if we go over here, we can say that we start out with 209.43% here. And the next one here that we're going to do is going to be 216. I just did these two a little bit before. So we're going to get this is going to be 216 when we do this, the sun moon. So that's 216.24. And you can see here on the spreadsheet, this is the comparison between the two of these. Now, at first glance, you might look at this and say, well, they're pretty close together, right? I mean, why don't we just we could use either one, right? I mean, we could use the... All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at 10 years in sample and 5 years out of sample. So when we look at the data here, that's the next logical test. What we're going to do is we're going to ask it to go 5 years out into the future on its own to see how it would have done. So according to this in the beginning, they're both about the same, but let's see if that holds true as we go out into the future. And we go back about 5 years. So I'm going to take this learning curve and I'm going to go back here to 2020, which means that it's only looking at 10 years in sample, and then 5 years into the future, it's going to have to look out on its own. We're going to go back to the composite cycle here, and we're going to take this and we're going to look at the moon situation here, and we're going to add that in, which is the zodiac sign. So this might look familiar. We did these, but this is going to look a little bit different because this is slightly less period than we saw. And then we're going to look at the sun moon. We're going to add that into the picture, right? And then we're going to look at the composite box, and we're going to look back, and we're only going to look at the trades right now for the zodiac signs. And I'm going to look at just this period here from 2020 to here, where the last 5 years out of sample. So I'm only looking at these last 5 years here. This was the in sample. This is the out of sample. Let's see how it did. So the moon transit here, it did. We look at the buy sells here. It does about 21% into there. So let's see, we're going to go a little bit more. 22.86%. Let's just say that's roughly what it is. So 22.86% here. And then let's look at how the sun moon did with the aspects to the sun, like the new moon and the full moon. If we look at this one here, this one actually does 54.5%. So right off the bat here, what we're starting to see is there's a discrepancy for me. So 54.5. So what we're seeing here is that if you stopped this test 5 years ago, the lunar cycle by signs made 23% total, but the lunar by sun makes 55%. Now that's a long time to make something go out of sample. I usually update this once a month or once every 6 months. All right, so now we're going to look at another period here into the future. We're actually going to look at the period only 5 years of learning and 10 years into the future. So that what we're going to see here on the test here is going to say 5 years in sample, 10 years out of sample. And how did that hold up? Is this trend continuing to show up that the lunar cycle by signs is falling apart here as we get further out? So this is a long time to make it go. So this is as if you went to somebody in 2015 and said, run me a gold lunar cycle by Zodiac Sign and by the sun and the moon, and you came back in 10 years and you said, how did they do? That's basically what it is. So we're going to look here, go back to the composite here, and we're going to rerun these again. So we're going to look at the moon situation here. And I'm doing all this by hand because this software is not capable of doing this, but there is other software out there that can do these types of calculations, just so you know. But this particular software can't, so you have to do this stuff by hand to figure out what's going on with these different cycles here. Okay, so we have 30% here, and we're going to look at just the lunar cycle by zodiac first. And so that's the first one I'm going to look at here. And so we want to make sure, we wanted to test this period here from here into the future, right? So we want to go from 2015 into the future. And so that one does 22.3%. So, I mean, we would expect it to deteriorate, right? I mean, that's a long time to go without re-educating it. But this one does 22.3? It's up here. It's 22.3% up here. And so if we go back here, we will see that this is, you see this is 22.3%. And the sun lunar, if we take a look at that one's going to go 36.47%. So there's still a difference here. So 36.47. So 36.47. So they're kind of falling apart here. Of course, we made it go 10 years out of sample, but look at the difference here. There's still showing a huge discrepancy here between running this. The sun moon does much better consistently. This is only 61%. So we're still seeing a breakdown here. So in conclusion here, I would say just from what we're looking at here, the sun lunar cycle looks much better, like the one with the aspects to the sun. But let's just do one more test here. Let's come in here and let's do 13 years and 2 years. So I'm only going to let it go 2 years because this was a complete back test here, which said they were even, which clearly they're not. And then we went here, the next one below it, we did 10 years, we made it run 5 years, and the lunar cycle by signs is falling apart, right? It's only 42% as good as this one. And it's important to have two of them to compare because how would we compare this, right? They're all deteriorating, right? But this one is deteriorating much less. Okay, so now let's take a look at one final interval here. I'm going to go in between, and we're going to look at between this 13. We're going to go 13 years in sample and 2 years out of sample. So I'm only going to let it run 2 years, and it's going to be between this 0 and this 5. So this one was just the back test. This one we made it go 5 years on its own, and I'm going to go in between. I'm going to interpolate between there, and hopefully that this trend continues. That the lunar by signs is inferior to the lunar by sun, and that's what this ratios are telling us here. So if we go over here to this learning curve here, what we're going to do is we're going to look for about 2 years in the past. So 1, 2, so right there. So this is about 2 years into the past, and we're going to go here, and we are going to do the same addition here. So we're going to go to moon, which is by the signs. We're going to add this to the composite box. We're going to go to moon, sun. We're going to add that to the composite box here, and then we're going to open these up. Whoops, it didn't seem to add. I got 3 of the sun moons here. Give me a second. I'm going to delete this. I don't know why it didn't send the first one. Okay, so we're going to send over the moon once again. So we're going to send that. There it is. Okay, so we're going to start with the moon first here, and we're going to see how that did. And that should continue to underperform the sun moon if we're correct. If our theory is correct here, it should consistently show that it's underperforming. So I'm going to highlight this region into here, which was the last 2 years. So you can see right there, those are the last 2 years. And this is telling us that this is 24.74%. So I'm going to go back here to my spreadsheet. So it's going to be 24.74%, so roughly 25%. And then we're going to look now at the one that is the sun and the moon here by aspect. And this one does 37.39. So it's still consistently holding up. 37.39. That the out of sample portion's running much better with this uh, the lunar cycle by the sun. So that's the one that we want to look at here. You can see in every scenario here, the lunar sun was better than just the lunar by the signs. So for gold, it's a consistent theme that we saw with the S&P, that it's better to have that by the aspects to the sun and the moon. So we can go back here and I'll show you the actual chart that we made before. That will be the valid chart here. So I'm going to make this, close this out, and we'll make that learning curve go all the way back out to the present moment. And then so if we load this up, now we have confidence that this is going to be the best one to use for us. So this is the most updated one. You can see here this shows the same patterns that we talked about before, with this low coming in at the right before the full moon, and then we're going to have this peak coming up right before the new moon. All right, guys, so that's all I've got for the gold verification here. So we verified the data once again, and so stay with us. In the next video, we're going to talk about oil. We're going to talk about how oil did, if oil follows the same trends, and then that will help you decide which lunar cycle to use when you're using this to forecast the markets. All right, guys, that's all I got for this video. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone has a great day. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.